modern vehicles feel futuristic. Self-parking systems, adaptive headlights, heated seats, digital dashboards, and navigation systems that guide you across the country all seem like the product of the last decade. Yet many of these technologies were invented decades earlier. Engineers, inventors, and car companies experimented with radical ideas long before the public was ready. The technology was often fragile, costly, or simply too advanced for buyers to trust. Some innovations disappeared for 30, 40, or even 50 years, only to return as standard features. These are 20 automotive features that were genuinely ahead of their time, ideas that predicted the future of the car long before drivers realized they needed them. The fifth-wheel parking system, 1933. Long before sensors, cameras, or automated parking systems existed, inventor Brooks Walker developed the park car. Hidden underneath the rear of the car was a retractable fifth wheel. When deployed, this wheel lifted the back of the car slightly off the ground, allowing it to pivot sideways into a parallel parking space like a shopping cart. Public demonstrations in 1933 stunned audiences as full-size cars rotated perfectly into tight spaces, an effect so smooth it looked like a magic trick. The problem Walker solved was real. Parallel parking in crowded streets has always been challenging, and yet the system failed commercially. The mechanism was expensive, it took up valuable trunk space, and most buyers considered it a gimmick. Walker didn't have software or sensors, but his concept is identical to today's automated parking systems. Decades later, modern cars would finally realize the vision he created in 1933. Heated seats. 1966 Cadillac Fleetwood. Heated seats feel like a modern luxury, but Cadillac offered them in 1966 on the Fleetwood. Inside the seat cushions were electric heating elements combined with a temperature sensor. On cold mornings, the seats would automatically warm if the outside temperature fell below roughly 50 degrees Fahrenheit. This innovation provided immediate relief in icy weather and offered comfort for drivers with back pain. The system anticipated the driver's needs before they were even expressed, turning simple leather seats into a personal comfort device. The public reaction at the time was lukewarm, and many buyers considered the feature excessive and unnecessary. As a result, it disappeared for a short period. However, winter continued to be cold, drivers continued to appreciate comfort, and heated seats returned, first as premium options and eventually as standard features. Cadillac didn't invent warmth, but it proved drivers would eventually pay for it. Rear view camera, 1956 Buick. Centurion concept. Today, rear view cameras are required on all new cars in many countries, but the concept existed as early as 1956. The Buick Centurion concept car replaced the traditional rear view mirror with a camera mounted at the back of the vehicle, feeding video to a screen on the dashboard. The vision was clear: eliminate blind spots, improve reversing safety, and modernize the cockpit. While televisions were still new to households, the technology was impressive. However, the hardware was bulky, fragile, expensive, and the image quality was poor. The feature remained a concept car novelty until technology finally caught up. Decades later, smaller, cheaper digital cameras made the concept practical. By 2018, the United States made rear-view cameras mandatory on all new passenger vehicles. Buick wasn't predicting the future. It was impatiently living in it. Swiveling headlights, 1948. Tucker 48. The Tucker 48, designed by Preston Tucker, carried a center headlight known as the Cyclops. This headlight turned with the steering wheel at illuminating corners before the car entered them. The idea was simple. Seeing where you were going was more important than seeing where you had been. On dark, rural roads, the swiveling headlight was a practical safety feature, not a gimmick. However, legal restrictions in many states limited cars to 2 headlights, making the third lamp awkward. Tucker's company also faced financial and legal challenges that prevented wider adoption. Today, adaptive headlights that follow steering input are a premium safety feature across multiple brands. Tucker didn't just build a strange car, he created a feature the world now treats as obvious. Hydropneumatic suspension, 1955 Citroën DS. In 1955, the Citroën DS introduced a revolutionary hydropneumatic suspension system. Instead of traditional springs, the DS used nitrogen-filled spheres and hydraulic fluid to create a glide so smooth it became legendary. The system could self-level at a just ride height and maintain composure under varying loads, as if the car were actively negotiating the road rather than yielding to it. The technology felt like engineering sorcery. It delivered unmatched comfort and control, but it came with drawbacks: complexity, specialized maintenance knowledge, and limited availability of repair shops capable of handling it. Despite this, the DS proved the concept, laying the foundation for modern adaptive air suspensions found in luxury sedans and SUVs today. Four-wheel steering, 1987. Honda Prelude. The 1987 Honda Prelude brought four-wheel steering to mass production with a fully mechanical system. At low speeds, the rear wheels turned opposite the front wheels, reducing the turning circle and making tight maneuvers easier. At higher speeds, the rear wheels turned in the same direction as the front to improve stability during lane changes and fast cornering. Journalists praised the precision, and enthusiasts immediately felt the difference. However, extra mechanical complexity increased cost, and mainstream buyers were reluctant to pay for a feature they could not demonstrate at a stoplight. Modern performance cars from Porsche, BMW, Ferrari, and Mercedes now use electronic rear-wheel steering. But Honda proved the concept decades earlier. Electronic fuel injection, 1969 Volkswagen Type 3. Before electronic fuel injection, EFI, carburetors were the norm. Carburetors were simple, mechanical, and imprecise, guessing the fuel mixture without accounting for changing conditions like temperature or altitude. In 1969, the Volkswagen Type 3 introduced Bosch's DJ-Ronic EFI system, using sensors to measure operating conditions and deliver fuel with real-time precision. Drivers experienced easier cold starts, better throttle response, improved efficiency, and lower emissions. Skeptics feared electronics would fail, but the automotive industry embraced the technology. Today, every mass-produced vehicle relies on EFI, and the Type 3 was one of the first to prove that intelligent fuel delivery was more than a gimmick. A high-compression V8, 1949, Oldsmobile Rocket 88, the Oldsmobile Rocket 88 of 1949, introduced a high-compression V8 engine that changed perceptions of what a family car could deliver. Its overhead valve design and bold compression produced power that shocked post-war drivers and dominated early NASCAR tracks. This engine proved performance and reliability could coexist, creating obsession among drivers. Modern muscle cars trace their heritage to this moment when a standard car suddenly felt like it had a heartbeat. The Rocket 88 was not just an engine. It was a cultural phenomenon that transformed America's automotive imagination. Digital dashboard, 1980, Aston Martin Lagonda. The 1980 Aston Martin Lagonda featured a fully digital dashboard and touch-style controls that made the cockpit feel like a sci-fi set. Screens replaced traditional needles, presenting glowing information throughout the cabin. At launch, it looked futuristic, but in practice, early electronics weren't ready for vibration, heat, and long-term use. The displays often failed, and repairs were prohibitively expensive. Still, the Lagonda proved the concept. Today, fully digital instrument clusters are common even in mid-range cars, carrying forward the vision Aston Martin pioneered decades earlier. Head-up display, 1988. Oldsmobile Cutlass, Supreme borrowing, technology from fighter jets. The 1988 Oldsmobile Cutlass Supreme introduced a head-up display that projected key information onto the windshield. Drivers could read speed, warnings, and navigation cues without taking their eyes off the road. Early HUDs were limited and expensive, so they appeared mainly in premium models. As projection technology improved, HUDs became widespread. Today, they are common in sports cars, crossovers, and luxury sedans alike, a direct evolution of Oldsmobile's early experiment. Auto-dimming rear-view mirror, 1959 Cadillac DeVille. The 1959 Cadillac DeVille addressed nighttime glare with the Guidematic auto-dimming mirror. A sensor detected bright lights behind the vehicle and automatically dimmed the mirror to reduce glare. The system protected drivers' eyes without manual effort, but buyers initially saw it as an over-engineered luxury feature. After refinement and cheaper electronics, auto-dimming mirrors became mainstream. Today, most drivers hardly notice them until they drive a car without one, suddenly remembering how brutal night glare can be. Rain-sensing wipers, 1970s, Citroën SM. The Citroën SM introduced rain-sensing wipers in the 1970s. A windshield sensor detected moisture and automatically adjusted wiper speed. This made driving safer and more convenient, as the car responded to changing weather conditions without manual input. And early sensors were expensive and prone to errors, so adoption was limited for years. By the 1990s, improved components allowed rain-sensing wipers to become common, showing Citroën's habit of building the future first and letting the world catch up later. Seatbelt reminder chime, early 1970s. Ford introduced one of the most hated life-saving features in the early 1970s, a seatbelt reminder chime. The alarm would not stop until the driver buckled up. Drivers resisted, cutting wires and disabling fuses, but the feature worked precisely because it forced compliance with human laziness. As reminders spread, seatbelt usage rose and fatalities fell. Today, seatbelt chimes are mandatory in most markets. The irritating alarm is the point. It creates a habit that saves lives. Power windows, 1940. Packard offered power windows in 1940, a feature that replaced cranks with buttons. The reaction was predictable: disbelief and admiration for luxury buyers. Power windows reinforced status while increasing comfort. The technology trickled down as costs fell, and by the 1980s and 1990s, it became common even in mid-range cars. Today, manual windows feel like a time capsule. Once drivers experience the convenience, going back seems almost ridiculous. Automatic climate control, 1964. Cadillac 60 Special. The 1964 Cadillac 60 Special introduced automatic climate control, allowing drivers to select a target temperature while the system managed fan speed, heating, cooling, and airflow automatically. Before this, climate control was a constant adjustment battle while driving. Cadillac turned comfort into automation. The concept remained expensive for decades, but by the 1990s, it became mainstream. Modern cars now offer dual-zone and tri-zone systems, evolving directly from Cadillac's early experiment. Side airbags, 1994, Volvo extended airbag protection to side impacts with the 1994 850, installing airbags in seat bolsters designed to shield the chest and pelvis during collisions. The goal was simple: reduce serious injury where space between the occupant and door was minimal. Side airbags and layered safety systems now appear in almost every modern car. Volvo proved early on that safety innovation was not a marketing feature, but a moral imperative. Integrated navigation, Honda Accord and Toyota Crown, 1981 to 1986. Long before GPS became a consumer product, Toyota experimented with screen-based navigation in the 1981 Crown. By 1986, Honda's Accord offered a true navigation system using gyroscopes, wheel sensors, and electronic maps displayed on a black and white CRT screen. No satellites were involved. The system used motion tracking and math to approximate vehicle position. The early systems were expensive and niche, but they proved that cars could guide drivers automatically, a concept that GPS would later perfect. Turbocharged engines in everyday cars, 1978, Saab 99 Turbo. Before 1978, turbochargers were mostly found on aircraft, race cars, or exotic vehicles. The Saab 99 Turbo demonstrated that forced induction could be practical for daily driving. It delivered dramatically more power without increasing displacement. Early turbos were challenging. They lagged, produced heat, required maintenance, and critics feared reliability. Yet turbocharging gradually became standard, especially as efficiency regulations demanded smaller engines with more output. Saab's breakthrough was proving that ordinary drivers could live with turbochargers and appreciate them. All-wheel drive for road cars, 1966 Jensen FF. All-wheel drive was once reserved for military and utility vehicles. The 1966 Jensen FF challenged this by incorporating the Ferguson Formula AWD system into a fast road car. Coupled with Dunlop Maxarette anti-lock braking, the Jensen FF handled wet roads and low traction conditions with composure. The car was expensive and complex, and only 320 were produced, but it demonstrated the potential of AWD as a performance tool. Modern performance cars and many luxury vehicles now use AWD systems derived from this principle. Anti-lock brakes. 1971, Chrysler Imperial anti-lock braking systems, ABS, prevent wheel lockup during panic braking, allowing drivers to maintain control. In 1971, Chrysler and Bendix introduced an early electronic ABS on the Imperial. The system was expensive and fragile compared to modern ABS, but it represented the first major step toward a safety standard that would save countless lives. By the 1980s, more robust ABS systems were developed, and by 2013, ABS became mandatory on all new cars in the US. Looking across all 20 innovations, a pattern emerges. The ideas were often right, but the timing was wrong. These engineers could see the future, build it, and then watch the world take decades to admit it wanted what they had already created. Being first carries a cost. You don't get applause, you get skepticism, complaints about complexity, and accusations of over-engineering. Only later, when society catches up, do these ideas become obvious standards. So the next time you see a feature that seems like overkill, remember history. That overkill is often a blueprint, waiting for the world to catch up.